Assalamu alaikum. So today I'm going to be talking about finding an apartment in Morocco. Let's go. So if you move to a different country, you're probably thinking, okay, one of the first things that you need to do is find a place to live. It seems pretty obvious. And obviously in different countries you have different processes, and in this video I'm going to explain my experience so far of how it's been finding a place to live in Morocco. So as part of the residency, applying for residency, part of that you have to apply for a convertible or flexible bank account. I can do a whole video on the whole residency application process, but the reason I'm mentioning this is because in order to apply for the bank account you need to have an address here in Morocco. So that comes to actually finding a place to live. So I'm going to take you through my experience. The experience, I have to say, overall has been very positive, very smooth and very easy. In comparison to London, it's way quicker, way more effective, and just a lot more laid back. The estate agents, the people who show you these properties, who you contact and deal with, they are much easier to contact, much easier to speak with for the most part. And I've dealt with 3 different agencies and I viewed 3 different properties. I could have viewed more, but I just felt like, I don't know, I have stuff to do. I don't want to view a property for the sake of just viewing it. I think 3 is a decent number. 3 in different locations. Actually 2 were in the same complex, one of them was in a different area. So before I actually take you through, and I've got footage of each of the places, including the place that we have just signed, alhamdulillah, I am going to talk about some of the so-called issues that I came across. So the first one would be communication. I think I mentioned in my last video, but it's quite difficult to communicate with Moroccans if you only speak English. Some Moroccans speak English, but there's not that many. It's not like 50%. It's not like half the people. It might be like 5% to 10% maybe. So when it comes to estate agents, alhamdulillah, like they have a higher chance of speaking English, but the English may not be the best. But you know, alhamdulillah, it's good that they even speak it. So the reason I mention communication is because when you're first reaching out to the agency, a lot of the time they will try to speak to you in French or Moroccan Arabic or whatever it may be, right? It's these 2 languages. And so making that first contact, one of the only options is to call or to email, but a lot of the time if you email you don't really get a response for whatever reason. So your only other option seemingly is to call. And so I was in a position where I was like, okay, I don't speak French, I don't speak Moroccan Arabic. My wife, I don't want to put her in that position anyway, but she speaks French. She can hold a simple conversation in French, she can understand. Like if it's a very formal conversation, she can understand. Moroccan Arabic, she can understand some, but she wouldn't be able to have a conversation. So I went to my WhatsApp group chat, the one that I'm in, which has been very useful, and I asked, is anybody, any of the brothers, willing to call one of these estate agents for me so I can show my interest and arrange a visit, of course. I didn't really get any response, I'm not gonna lie, but one person did respond saying, why don't you just add that number to your phone, open up WhatsApp and just reach out there. You can use a translation tool online. And so I did that, and that has been the game changer, because up until that point I just wasn't getting any responses. I was getting absolutely no responses over email. So that's something that I would highly recommend if you are going to search for houses or apartments or whatever it may be and you don't speak Moroccan Arabic or French. If you speak one of those, it'll be a lot easier. Another thing I want to point out, and this isn't the case for all estate agents, but I'd say 2 out of 3 of them were very salesy. I felt like they were, I don't know, like obviously assume the best of your brothers, but they were just forcing it a bit too much, especially when the property wasn't in the best condition. Maybe it's just because I'm not from Morocco, or you know, I'm used to speaking to British people and we have a certain way of talking. I don't know what it was. That was kind of an issue. I had a lack of trust sometimes in the estate agents, which, I don't know, it's probably a personal problem of mine. It's probably nothing to do with them, but I just want to mention that you will be their objective is to sell it to you, because on the next point I'm moving to, you will have to pay them a fee, the estate agent a signing fee or whatever it's called, but the estate agent fee. And so even if you're trying to negotiate the price down, they will be reluctant to do so, because their fee that you pay them is the first month's rent, or is equivalent to the monthly rent. So if you see a place listed for 5,000 Moroccan, right, and you ask them, oh, is it worth negotiating? Is it possible to offer 4,000? Sometimes they might just be like, no, I don't think it's worth it. And you don't know if they're telling the truth, because it's not in their best interest to say, oh yeah, it's worth offering lower, you could get it for lower, because that means that they will receive a lower amount. You know, once again, assume the best, but yeah. So the estate agent fee is something that we don't have in the UK. We don't pay the estate agent. I think the owner might pay them, but for us, we don't pay them. So it was a bit of a shock. Say for example, the apartment that I got, or am in the process, we've signed and everything, we're just waiting to be completely finalized, is 6,500 a month Moroccan, which equates to over 500 pounds, British pounds, and you would never ever pay that to an estate agent in the UK. I'm pretty sure it's illegal. Like, you just wouldn't pay that. Now, another thing to note is that there is a difference between furnished and unfurnished, and the difference is a lot bigger than you might think, because initially I was like, oh yeah, I could get an unfurnished place, I don't mind paying for, oh yeah, I could just buy the sofa, the bed, all of these things. Yeah, of course it will cost you a fair amount up front, but the rent is going to be lower, and you actually get to choose what's in your apartment, especially if you're staying for 1, 2, 3+ years. It might be worth the investment. So I was wrong. So part of it being unfurnished is the fact that it doesn't have a dishwasher, doesn't have a washing machine, doesn't have a fridge. You know, you basically have to set up all of these things on your own, and it might be a bit of a hassle. I'm not sure. It could mean that you're paying an extra £1,000 to £1,500 up front. The issue with it being furnished is that, one, you pay more, which is understandable, but two, you won't get to choose what you actually have in your apartment. You could be very fortunate and find a place which is well furnished and it looks nice and everything, but on the other hand, you might find the perfect, or seemingly the perfect apartment, but then you have really old Moroccan sofas, and I mean, you might like that, but some people wouldn't. It might be really old, the furniture, and breaking and all of this, and the owner isn't necessarily obliged to update these things because you're taking the furniture as it is. But anyway, I just wanted to point these things out, and there's probably a few other things which, yeah, I think there's probably a few other things that I could mention off the top of my head. I just can't really think of them. Oh yeah, the websites that I was using was, I can't remember how, it begins with an M. Let me just find it. Yeah, so I found it now. Mubawab, mubawab.ma. So this is one that I used. This is one that I found most useful. There is Avito as well, AVITO, and apparently somebody said you can use Facebook Marketplace. So yeah, use any of these three. I went with the first one. That's just, it seemed like the most reliable. I looked at Avito and it was kind of somewhat confusing. They definitely didn't have an English option, and also on top of that, it seemed pretty unprofessional the way the listings were sort of set out. It didn't really give me confidence in contacting the owner, etc. So but yeah, I think that's everything I'm going to talk about in terms of the process. Oh no, so I keep forgetting the actual process. So once you've found the apartment that you want to live in, you've viewed it, you've made contact with the estate agent, you obviously submit your offer. Now, ideally, just put in your offer as soon as you are certain, right? And just don't leave it too long. Sit down with your partner, or if you're by yourself, sit down, have a think, is this the right place? And it doesn't have to be perfect. You can move after 6 months. If it's a 1-year contract, most 1-year contracts have a 6-month break clause, meaning after 6 months, you can hand in your notice to leave, and after a month you can leave. So essentially after 7 months you can leave. You don't need to stay there forever, so it doesn't need to be the perfect apartment. Especially, you're not even buying it, so why does it need to be perfect anyway? I would say if it ticks most of your boxes, you know, the right area, I'd say that's probably the most important thing. The right number of bedrooms. If it's an apartment, it's ideally one of the higher levels. It has a lift, maybe, it has security. These things, if that's what you're looking for. Now, as I mentioned before, the price will vary, and you can get apartments for £200, £300 a month, if you're willing to forego maybe security and the area, etc. But you can still get an okay place for like £200-300 a month. Now, if you want something a bit better, you know, security is a bit more modern, decent floor, decent area, you might be paying £400, £500, £600 a month, and you can pay more as well. So whatever your budget is, you will find something for that budget, 100%. You shouldn't be worried about, oh, will I be able to afford it? Pretty much anyone can afford to live in Morocco, especially if you come from the West. Now, once you've found the place that you want to live, put in the offer. Whether it gets accepted, if you offer the asking price, it will likely be accepted unless somebody else has put in that offer. If you make a lower offer, maybe the estate agent will have to speak with the owner. I think in the case of the second apartment that I viewed, I put in, it was listed at 6,500, so around just like £500 a month. I put in an offer of 5,500 because there were certain things, and I'll go through the video as well, there were certain things about the apartment which I wasn't certain about, but I would have been happy paying 5,500, which, how much is that? If I had to guess, it's probably like £400 a month, roughly, maybe just over £400 a month, which is a bargain. Once the offer is accepted, then you should go into the office. What happened with us is that, I'll put footage as well, we went into the office and the estate agents asked for my passport, and then they just randomly took us to I don't know what it was, it must have been a lawyer's. I think I spoke about it on the vlog, so yeah, I'll just put the vlog in here. Assalamu alaikum. So today we literally just went to the estate agent, went to sign the contracts for our apartment. Alhamdulillah, it's not fully over the line just because we need the owner to sign, but you know, inshallah, should all go to plan. Was pretty straightforward. We actually went to the estate agent, said hi, and then they randomly walked out. They asked for my passport, I gave it to them, and then we walked out of the estate agent, and then they just got into a car, and we just thought, yeah, we'll have to get into the car as well. They didn't even say anything. They didn't say like where we were going or anything like that. But yeah, we drove to, I don't know what it was, it must have been like a lawyer's office or something like that. It was quite busy. We signed the papers, I had to do about 6 signatures, and yeah, inshallah, everything goes to plan. So yeah, all of that happened, and then everything was signed, we signed it, then the estate agent will go to the owner and they will sign it, and then they'll get it legalized. Well, it's legalized from our side, then they get legalized from the owner's side, and then at that point it's pretty much done. Now, in the meantime of the owner signing it, you need to put down a holding deposit, which is 1 month's rent. So you send that over. If you are from the West, likely your bank will not send in the Moroccan currency, so you will have to use an external tool. So I used TransferWise or Wise. The only issue with that is that they apply a pretty hefty fee on top of it. So for £512 it was meant to be, they upped it to like £525, which doesn't seem like much, but it's annoying, especially if you have to do that every single month, right? Yeah, adds up over a year, 2 years, 3 years. It just seems like the best option. It's very easy to use and it's very reliable. So once you've paid that, and this is the stage where we are currently at, so we're just waiting for the owner to sign and legalize, and then it's all done. So inshallah that will work out. And yeah, on to viewing the actual apartments. So the first apartment, I was actually referred to this estate agent through somebody, and somebody reached out to me via email saying they know someone who lives in Morocco. I reached out to this person over WhatsApp, and they recommended that I go to this brother who is Moroccan. He moved to America and moved back to Morocco. He's an estate agent. He took me around to this first place, and I'll be honest, like, I didn't really like it at all. I liked the area was decent. There was just a lot of construction going on. The flat itself was actually quite nice. There was just aspects to it which just would not work at all. So had a nice big living area, had a nice big kitchen. There was this area, like, I don't know how to describe it. You'll see in the video where it was like next to the kitchen where there was also a drain on the ground. It was like an indoor courtyard in the middle of the apartment, which was a bit strange to me, and there were windows to the bedroom, so it was a bit confusing. I've never seen that before. And then there's 2 bedrooms, so 2-bedroom ground floor apartment. So this was an issue because for security reasons, I don't really want to live on the ground floor, but also like you'd have to have your curtains shut all the time if your wife doesn't want to wear hijab. So yeah, it's not ideal. And also the bathroom stunk. The bathroom, literally, I walked past the bathroom, they opened it, and it just released this really bad odor. And I'll be honest, as soon as I walked in, I kind of knew that it wasn't going to be for us because it was ground floor immediately. This is the thing, like, I find it very difficult to just be straight up like, no, I'm not interested, especially when they've taken the time to, you know, show you around and all that. But I wanted to get my wife's opinion, so I took a video, the video you're watching, and I sent it to her. And straight away she was like, no, I don't like it. So anyway, that was viewing number 1 done. I'll put the location of the apartment on the map, roughly where it is. So yeah, it's probably about 15-minute drive from the city centre, really, but it's not far at all. The second viewing was a lot more promising. It was in this very secure complex, a very nice complex. It's actually the same complex that our apartment, inshallah, is in. It's just a different part of the complex. So This one was on the first floor, and it was very, very nice. It was like, you know, flowers and grass outside, and there was a wall, and there was security. And then walked into the apartment. We took the stairs. I believe they have a lift, but I'm not sure. Anyway, it's the first floor, so you don't necessarily need one. So walked in. It was actually quite spacious. Yeah, there was a water closet, is what we call it in the UK. So basically just a toilet and a sink. There's a room for that. Then there's a living room where you have also a view. There's a kid crying in the background. It's kind of distracting. So you have the first bedroom. And, you know, the bedrooms were decent size. So it was a 2-bedroom, first floor apartment. It was a bit, I could tell it needed a new coat of paint for sure. And it needed some care. There was mold on some of the walls. So yeah, I was assured that all of that would be fixed, but it put some doubt in my mind. The estate agent, I just didn't get a good vibe off this guy. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure about that experience, but the flat itself, the apartment itself was actually very good. Nice big bathroom, they had a balcony. Yeah, it was nice. Now, the price for this was 6,500. And also, I should mention, the price for the first one was 6,500. All of them are 6,500. So yeah, 6,500. I didn't think it was worth 6,500. This was the one that I offered 5,500 for, but it got rejected in the end. They said, no, we want 6,500, which, I mean, I don't think many people are going to pay that for that particular flat or apartment. And yeah, so it didn't have a dining area or anything like that. It didn't have a table to eat at. That was another sort of thing that was missing for us. It was on a low floor, so the humidity would probably be a bit bad as well. And it kind of showed with the mold in the room. So yeah, I held that as a sort of reserve and I put the offer in. When they rejected it, I was kind of ruled it out, but we didn't have many other options at the time. Oh yeah, I should also mention that experience was kind of weird because the estate agent said he would pick me up, and so I walked outside the apartment block I'm in currently, and I went outside. I had to walk a couple of minutes. I saw a car parked up, and I saw a couple of guys inside, so I was like, oh, it's probably not him. But then I walked towards it, and I could tell it was him. He was sort of waving at me, and I just got in the car. It's like the #1 rule, just don't get into a stranger's car, but I did because I knew it was him, and they took me to the place. Now, this might be something which is just normal here. This is not something normal in the UK. Like, it would just be weird. But yeah, that was part of the experience. I thought I'd mention that. So the third and final place I'm going to show you is actually the place that we ended up getting. Alhamdulillah, we're just in the final stages, and inshallah it will all go smoothly, inshallah. So yeah, I saw this on the website that I mentioned before, Mubawab or Muwabab, I can't remember what it's called, but that website, it was listed 6,500. Went to view it. I actually got a response via email after showing interest on the actual ad. So it's always worth, you know, showing your interest on the ad, maybe sending an email. But I got an email back and they said, are you available to view it, etc. I went to view it, and this was the one that I actually took my wife just because I knew the estate agent. I knew the estate agent was a woman, so it was only right. It's 3-bedroom instead of 2-bedroom, and it's on the 5th floor in the same complex as the previous one. And yeah, it's bigger, it's better in my opinion. I should also mention, and my wife told me to mention this, there are other people currently living there, which is why it's very, very messy, and the estate agent made sure to mention that. But yeah, it's got a balcony, it's got a water closet and a bathroom and 3 bedrooms. One of the bedrooms was locked for whatever reason, but yeah, I've seen the photos on the actual ad, so it all adds up. Yeah, really, really happy. Inshallah, everything goes well. And yeah, if you have any questions when it comes to actually finding an apartment, then make sure you comment them down below, and hopefully I can get to answer them, inshallah. But yeah, I will see you shortly, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.